Hey, welcome back to Vinyl Village Garage. On this episode, I'm working on my own getting to work truck, which happened to start running pretty crummy on the way home from work the other day, and discovered we had some engine problems that needed addressed. So I figured, hey, why not? We'll go ahead and put this one up on there too. And I suppose hearing it run doesn't really sound all that bad, but it is shaking. It has a nice loud tick noise to it. As you can see, I've got check engine light on, service stability, service traction control, and a bit of a tick to the engine now sitting here at the stoplight. We'll dig a little deeper into it once I get back to the garage and see what I can figure out, but I suspect I have a collapsed lifter. Not too bad considering it has 297,000 miles on it. So first problem I've had with it, but we'll dig into it. As you can see, it has two codes listed, but only one I think I'm concerned with. But it seems my code reader is being a little silly too, but the P0307 tells me that I have a cylinder 7 misfire. And unfortunately, that is one of the cylinders that's operated by the air fuel management system for these vehicles. Cylinder 7 misfire. Already pulled the codes, got a bit of engine noise. Pulled the plug, looked at it. It being wet with fuel tells me I most likely have an exhaust valve lifter has malfunctioned. Unfortunately, it's buried inside there. So sometimes getting motivated to fix your own stuff is kind of tough. Trying to find that, I guess, happy medium between work and pleasure. I typically like wrenching on things, mostly other people's cars, and doing that. But when it comes to your own, it just isn't as much fun. So I'm debating what I need to do here to motivate myself a little bit. Do I break out and dance, or do a backflip maybe, or I suppose, I don't know, probably just ought to get to fixing it. Anyway, the goal is to get the head torn off it, intake torn off, get down to the source of the problem, and I guess investigate it and determine that if the camshaft survives. If the camshaft is damaged, my whole repair process is probably thrown out the window. But I suppose to dig into it, one step at a time, we'll get there. I typically kind of like laying some things out in order, but I guess let's get going. Not a great place to start. Disconnect the battery so you don't burn yourself to the ground or catch it on fire or have an incidental situation with electrical, because that's always fun when you start sparking with open fuel. It tends to make bad things happen. One of my first experiences wrenching, I had a 85 Camaro back when I was 18, just out of high school. It brought it into the shop for a no start, and of course 85 305 was carbureted. I'm like, well, okay, it's not too much out of my realm or wheelhouse to work on, but got it in. Hit the starter, wouldn't even do anything. Put it in the air on the lift, the starter is blown to pieces on this thing. I got to ask the question why, of course. So I started digging into it, and come to find out, the engine was hydrolocked, full of gasoline. Carburetor float had failed and filled that all the way up. And when the piston came around, blew the starter to pieces. So of course my first step is put a starter on it. Pull the spark plugs out of it, drain the fuel, and of course you still have some fuel left in the cylinders. And obviously a rookie, new to the world, my mistake was I said, I gotta get that fuel out of that cylinder. So I thought it'd be really wise to just kind of bump the new starter over, hook the battery up, crank it over a few times is my idea, and kind of push the fuel out. It pushed the fuel out, but me, did disconnect the ignition. So end result, I learned where the fire extinguisher was at very promptly. Fortunately, after the car went up in flames, the only thing that was damaged, which was really awesome back then, was the bras you put out front of your car, and burnt the nylon straps and just singed those. But as for the rest of the car, pretty much unscathed. Gave the engine a bath and actually worked out pretty nice. But from that point on, I'm kind of sensitive to electrical and gasoline and fire, so you learn a little bit and kind of go whoops, but yeah, I guess it happens. Well, get you in here a little bit closer. Of course, I kind of said what was happening, but we're gonna have to take all this off the intake, and whole front accessory drive on this side of the engine slides forward, so it gives you access to get the head off. I'm thinking on this trip, I've had some experience doing these before, but since it's my own vehicle, I kind of write the own rules on this one. But I only intend on removing just this cylinder head off of it, digging into it to extract the lifters, if I can find that that's the way I'm going to do it. I know some people are going to be hating me for it possibly and saying that's not the right way, but it's my truck, 290,000 miles on it. Not really sure how much more life really has left in it anyway, but maybe it's kind of like a bandit on a broken elbow, but we're going to give her a shot anyway. Again, I typically lay out my tools that I'm going to need, but unfortunately, no orange Mountain Dew, so this is going to have to do, mostly because this was not a planned project, but just something needs done. I've kind of got my board written up here, what I want to do next. The Avalanche, we're going to call it the not so surprise disaster. Runs bad, of course, check engine light on, cylinder 7. Talked about it, and it has most likely a exhaust lifter failure, but we're about to find out. But next step there is tear the engine down and see what we find. You know, I boasted about this truck being 290,000 plus miles on it, and pretty much all original and untouched. And one of the clues is that all these little clips that lock all the plugs in, you probably have lots of creative names for them. I can think of quite a few. Some probably aren't appropriate, but that's a good sign that someone has been here, because typically these get ripped out and thrown away. So that's just kind of the clues that tells me this thing hasn't really been apart much. So yay me. So I have to combat all the clips, which whatever, nothing new for my world. Seems to be something preventing me from getting the spark plug socket on the cylinder 3. So let's get you in here and see what it is. Really not seeing anything, but the old socket just won't go on there. So in that case, it's probably time just to, persuade it. I think there's a burr or something maybe on the head. Nope. Nope. Well, it's time to get a persuader out. Sorry about that. It seems that I dropped you there. I guess it's kind of like a drop call or drop video, or I really don't know what you'd call that. But here's what's interesting. Still can't get the socket on there, but looking at it, there's a stain on the cylinder head. The lighting, of course, isn't the most spectacular here, but there's spark plug. Down here on the cylinder head, there's a dark coloring like it's been leaking. You look at the other cylinders, we don't have that staining down there at the bottom, down there. So I was like, well, that just seems strange. I reached down and grabbed the old spark plug, and it's only hand tight. So I've drove this truck for 100,000 miles, and that's never fell out. It's easy enough, it's out. I guess once I get the head off, I'll try to figure out why I could not get a socket on there. Anyway, back to it. Gross. Hence the reason why we're not going to invest a lot of money into this one. And I'm probably guilty of some of this sludge and disgustingness, but you know, I just really don't like changing oil. But, let's do this. Oh. Cylinder 1 in the front. Boop. 3, 5, and 7's back there in the dark. Anyway, cylinder 7 intake appears to be the one closest to me. Uh-oh. Appears I would have lost the bet. It's the intake. Fortunately, I didn't bet anybody any money, so I didn't lose. But this is what causes a misfire. The lifter should operate this like these are tight. This one, not so much anymore. The lifter inside under the head has a spring-loaded mechanism to shut the cylinders off during operation, during air-fuel management, to change it from a V8 to a 4-cylinder. That one stuck down. And what happens then, the valve doesn't open, and then you have a misfire. So, on the right path. I guess wrong on the valve. But let's carry on. I wanted to get you in here to show you, get your peepers or your eyeballs in here. The very back cylinder head bolt back here. I learned while doing this that you undo it first, pull it up, pry the exhaust manifold this way, and you can use that kind of like a prop. And you can sneak all the other bolts out. Appears I'm about ready to pull the cylinder head off this, and it's getting close to the shut them down time for me this evening, because I do actually have to work in the morning. I'm going to try to get the head off, get down there and inspect the camshaft before quitting time, and so to speak, this evening. So we'll see what we find. One of the advantages of aluminum heads are they're definitely a lot lighter. And roller is still intact on the bottom, no scoring or galling, so I'm going to say the camshaft's probably fine, but we'll get in here in a second and take a look. But that's not supposed to be compressed. That's supposed to be about yay tall and spring all out. So this is definitely one that is stuck, compressed, and locked into place. Well, you think I said you had 300,000 miles? It's definitely one I wouldn't trust doing a cam swap on, and just rotating the cam to hope the lifter stays into place. But they don't stay at all. There's no friction. There's all my missing lifters. Now let's see about getting down and look at the old camshaft. Now what we're looking at is cylinder 7 here in the back. That's the lifter bore. That's the lobe down there. I see a nice mirror finish. No galling. The roller on the bottom was good. So in this case, no camshaft failure or damage. So I think we're just going to sneak a couple lifters in this and put it back together and get me back on the road with my daily truckster. Now I know there's probably been a lot of other footage or videos or other folks doing something similar to this, but I thought maybe it might be kind of cool to see. Well, they're gonna stay locked in. Sorry about that, I had to put you down for just a moment. The lifter holder's being a bit stubborn. Get you in here. The one on the left is normal operation. The one on the right is stuck down, obviously. That was causing my noise. I know these are a common problem with these engines, but I kind of like to know what goes on inside of these things to kind of figure out maybe what happened and what makes them tick. Well, here's the lifter. Unfortunately, it looks like it's not very stuck anymore. It appears that if you drop it once or twice on the floor, it dislodges whatever has caused the malfunction. So evidently, whatever the sticking situation isn't that critical, but obviously it was enough to cause a misfire. But I still think I'm going to cut it apart, see what makes this thing go. Or if you missed it earlier, I said makes it tick, but obviously that's probably a really bad dad joke because clearly the lifter was ticking, valve train was ticking, but never mind. It appears the roller on the end is being, I guess, difficult in holding it together. Well, there's part of it. Okay. So basically, I think we just got a lifter body full of debris and junk and probably just got wedged just right and caused the thing to stick down. These little ears should obviously move. They do move right now, but if it got stuck, I can see it overextending past the lock point, which is here, and got jammed down here. Then of course makes a lot of noise, makes for a big project taking the engine apart, but hey, I guess that's all there is to it. So I guess you would say the cause of failure, high mileage sludge and dirt. We're gonna get you in here, get you back up to speed. Shut her down about 9 o'clock last night, or at least that was my intentions. Got block surface cleaned up, ready to put back together. Got to install the lifter assembly for this side here. And then of course I was looking around after cleaning up. I figured right now would be probably the best time to actually go ahead and take care of this engine mount that I've been meaning to replace. With the cylinder head off and exhaust manifold out of the way, I'll tell you, that was a whole lot easier right now, as opposed to trying to stab that thing in there later. So fortunately, I went down to the parts department, picked one up at 9:30 at night. You might be asking how that happened. Well, the parts department happens to be underneath the back seat of my truck. I bought that engine mount about 1.5 years ago and just never got around to replacing it till now. But anyway, I got that taken care of. Getting ready to put the head back on, keep moving forward. So I guess follow along and we'll see how this goes. Seems I've misplaced, or maybe it was never there, one of the cylinder head alignment dowels. I found one tucked up in the cylinder head for cleaning it up, but the other one nowhere to be found. So maybe it was never there, maybe I lost it, or maybe someone has been in here before. I don't know, but I'm gonna attempt to make one. I have an old starter shim. Not even sure how this is gonna go, but I need to come up with something to help make sure I keep that centered on there right. But I'll see how this turns out, hopefully for the best. If not, I don't know. But anyway. See that. Now, of course, I'd say good as new. I'll at least hold my head gasket, keep the head lined up while I get the bolt through it. Not quite a perfect circle, but pretty close. I think it's gonna work fine. get you in here again. As you can see, rocker arms are all installed, torqued, and then just because no more clickety clack. Rocker is as it should, all of them are. Just one last kind of quick look, make sure I didn't forget anything really, really, really important. Seems I left the key on. Cycle the key a couple times, looking for any kind of fuel leak from the fuel rail. I never took the injectors out of the intake, so the only place I really need to be concerned with is where fuel line comes into the rail. It's actually dry, has fuel pressure. Kind of the point now, I guess it's the moment of truth. Kind of debating whether to just hit the key and hope for the best or see what happens. I guess it's kind of like this is the reward for a job, or I guess the prize at the end for what we do in doing such things. It's kind of like, yes, I did this, I fixed it, it's gonna go. And of course the exact opposite happens when it doesn't go. Sometimes it might wear you down a little bit, but you just keep on plugging away and you'll get it. But typically we have pretty good results. But let's just see how this one goes and we'll try it. Well, here we go. Much nicer sounding. No more clackety clickety bangety bang. Runs on all 8 cylinders again. I actually fixed my engine mount. Not gonna let it run too long because I haven't put any coolant in it yet. I guess I was about 75% sure this was gonna work right. Just because you talk about an engine with 290,000 miles, I only replaced the one lifter, actually one adjacent to it, the 2 lifters basically, but kind of like I said before, a band-aid on a broken elbow, but it seems to be holding. So top it off with coolant and go for a test run. Now, finishing touches. One last piece. This actual cover gives it an extra probably 30, 40, heck, maybe even 90 horsepower. I don't know. If anything, I guess just makes the fact that whole thing, weird plastic intake, look just a little bit better. That way you feel real good about buying it. I guess without it, it's kind of ugly anyway. Anyway, that's gonna do it. One more completed project. Got it done, probably about 4.5 hours total. A little bit tired. Things went pretty good overall. Maybe you learned something, or like I said again, maybe you learned how not to do it, if anything. But thanks again for watching.